Hey Friends, herzlich willkommen beim Blaze Youth Leadership Podcast. Dieser Podcast existiert für dich und uns als Next Generation Leader, die wir die Zukunft gestalten wollen. Heute haben wir eine Special-Episode, denn wir hatten einen Zoom-Call mit Reed Moore. Reed ist ein befreundeter Jugendpastor aus Amerika von Tarek und Liana. Und Reed war der Jugendpastor von der Passion City Church aus Atlanta. Er hat mit uns über 10 Prinzipien für erfolgreiche Teams gesprochen. And Reed, we want to say thank you for your huge invest in us. We appreciate everything you did and continue to do for us. We love you so much. Und ich wünsche euch jetzt viel Spaß bei der heutigen Episode. Ich bin Johnny, dein heutiger Host. Viel Spaß.
Hey Freunde, willkommen zum Blaze Youth Leadership Podcast. Wir lieben es, dass du mit am Start bist. Ich bin Tarek und habe das Privileg, zusammen mit Liana Blaze leiten zu dürfen. Und wir wollen einfach ganz kurz zusammensitzen, um in unsere Leiterschaft zu investieren. Und wir freuen uns mega, dass wir für heute einfach Reed Moore am Start haben aus der Passion City Church, direkt aus Atlanta zugeschaltet. Wir wollen dich ermutigen, setz dich hin, schnapp den guten Kaffee oder sowas und ja, zieh dir den Input rein, lehn dich rein in seiner Leiterschaft. Wir wollen gucken, was Gott einfach für uns vorgesehen hat und in die Zukunft und in die nächste Generation investieren. So, Reed, thank you so much for taking the time, spending with us and investing into our leadership.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
as I told you, just take us with you into your leadership talk. And I think after that, we just dive into 1 or 2 questions. And we're looking so forward to you. I just told my team that I highly appreciate your leadership and your mentorship for me. And for just everybody to get to know you. Like Leonard, I met you in 2017.
Yeah,
We were
2017.
traveling the United States for getting inspiration for youth ministries. So you're a great leader and communicator, and I was looking so forward to hear from you. So yeah, let's just dive right into the content, and after that, I think we just dive into 1 or 2 questions. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, when you were messaging me like, hey, what do you want to like download to our team? And I was thinking about like some of the leadership stuff that's been important for our team at Passion, but then also stuff that I took from Gwinnett Church. And so something I want to talk about today it's going to sound like it's going to be a lot, but it won't be because we can move through it pretty quick. But I wanted to talk today about 10, I guess I would call them 10 principles for thriving teams. And it's 10 things that I look for in our team that I expect out of our team. And it's not just staff. So this is what we expect from our staff, our door holders, our contractors. These are just 10 principles that we want every individual to practice. And if each individual on the team practices, then we grow as a healthy team and we can accomplish a lot. And so I'm going to go through these for us. This is stuff that we were teaching this before all the COVID, you know what I mean? And then though now with all of that happening, these principles have become even more important because you guys know this, that when life gets shaken up, like a lot of the things that you used to rely on, fall to the wayside and you're back down to just your foundation, right? And these are foundation for us. And so now that life's been shaken up, we just lean even harder on these 10 things. And so we've kind of gone back to this in these seasons. It's almost like, when all your norms get broken down, you go back to basics, right? And so these are our basics. These are our essentials. These are kind of foundational things for our team. And so I'm going to go through these and I'll go through them kind of quickly. I'm not going to spend a ton of time because it is 10 different things, but these are 10 things that we're teaching our teams regularly when we bring on new residents, or for you guys, like new college students that are coming into our ministry, or when we're bringing on new door holders or volunteers. We're going over these things and we're downloading this into our culture. So these are some things that we teach, 10 principles, 10 practices that we want people to participate in for thriving teams. And so the first thing that we want for everybody to practice is what we call speeding versus parking. And when I say that, I mean, we want our people to be people that take initiative. And so the speeding versus parking is around our house, we kind of say, and around our church, we kind of say, hey, we would rather you get a speeding ticket than a parking ticket. We would rather you get in trouble for trying to accomplish something or trying to reach people or trying to do something rather than to get in trouble because you were not taking action or you weren't doing something or you weren't executing or you weren't thinking outside the box. And so for us, just a core value of people on our team is we want to be team members that take initiative. And so when we see something, we jump in. If we have an idea, we're going to contribute. If we see a gap, we're going to jump in and fill that gap. And as a leader of a team, for me, I tell our team all the time, I would rather have to rein you in than kick you to get you to do something, right? And so I say, hey, I want to rein in stallions, not kick donkeys. And so this is kind of one of our core values is let's be people that if we're going to err towards something, let's get speeding tickets, not parking tickets. Let's be a team that takes initiative. And so that's principle number one, speeding versus parking. The second thing is in regards to feedback and criticism. We say around here that we want our people to use criticism as seasoning, not staple. And so I'll talk about that just for a second. We are a feedback culture, and we do think you need to review everything that you're doing and you need to give good, honest feedback. But when it comes to feedback and criticism, we don't want to make criticism be the staple. We want to sprinkle it in. We want to be a culture that celebrates more than we criticize. And so for us, when we use criticism in our feedback, kind of a way that we implemented around our teams is in all of our team meetings, we celebrate and then we coach up and then we count our numbers. And so that flow goes, we celebrate first and we celebrate a lot. And then our coach ups, we usually try to own one thing that we erred towards. And then if we saw something in a different area, we'll point it out, but it's going to be seasoning, not staple. It's not the meal, right? Like, so we're not going to belabor our criticism of different events. Because that actually doesn't help. It just makes us negative, and we want to be a people that see potential and see positives. And so we're going to use criticism as seasoning, not staple. And we want that in our team members. Nobody wants the negative person that's always critiquing everything, right? And so we got speeding versus parking. We got seasoning, not staple. The third thing that we're looking for in great teams is that we want solutions people, not problem people. Good leaders, I'll tell you this, good leaders can point out problems. Great leaders bring solutions. And so you can be good leaders that point out problems and you can see errors and you can say, oh, this is why that event wasn't great, or this is what we should be doing, or did you guys see what that church down the road was doing? Wasn't that so amazing? Or you could be a great leader, and the great leader is the person that says, hey, we're not doing this well, but here's what I think we could do in order to reach more people, or to recruit better volunteers, or to up our production game, or to make our social media grid look better, or here's an idea I had for a video. And that's what we're looking for in great team members. On our team and in our door holders, we're always looking for solutions people. We're looking for the people that go, hey, I noticed this gap and here's my idea that I've got to fix it. And so even when I'm interviewing potential door holders or family group leaders, one of the questions that I ask is, hey, what's something that you think we could be doing better? Or what's something that you see that we could improve upon? And if people don't have great answers there, then a lot of times those are people that I'm going to pass up on, and I'm going to send them over to the parking team because I'd rather have people in our ministry and as family group leaders that are bringing solutions and are making us better. And so, yeah, I'm typically putting that in our interview. So my guys that I was just talking to just a second ago, Steven and Michelle, like you guys that are working with groups, that's something that I would be asking potential crew leaders is that, hey, what do you think we could do better? How could we improve? What is an idea that you've thought of that would make our ministry better? That's a great interview question to ask as you're bringing on new leaders, because you want solutions people on your team. And so we want solutions, not problem people. Another thing that we want to practice, that we want team members to practice, is we want to be close the loop people. And when I say close the loop, I mean people that close the loop on communication. We kind of have some ABCs for communication for our team members. And the ABCs for like team for us are always be communicating, always be collaborating, always be creating. Those are like our ABCs for good creative teams. And so, but the number one is always be communicating. And the reason why is because when you're communicating to each other, communication loops build trust, right? And so we encourage our people, close the loop on communication. When you've like had a meeting, like it's great practice to send an email at the end and say, hey, here's my understanding of what I'm supposed to do, and this is what I'm going to go and act on. Or, hey, if I have a question about something or vision was unclear, I would much rather get text messages from team members after a meeting that say, hey, I was unclear. Am I supposed to act on that? Again, that's being proactive, but it's also closing the loop on communication. Another way that this plays out in the communication realm and closing the loop is we always tell our team members when it comes to communication to keep short accounts. And when I say keep short accounts, I mean if you have a frustration with another team member, going to them, whether maybe you go to a mentor first and then you go to that person and you kind of close the loop and go, hey, when you came at me like that in that meeting, it made me feel really frustrated, and I just wanted to follow up with you on that. Or if you have a frustration with a boss or someone like that, and you go, hey, like that was like super frustrating the way that you led that meeting, and you kind of put me on the spot, and that didn't feel great. And so closing the loop on those communications and keeping short accounts helps build healthy teams. And so something we're always looking for are people that are willing to go that extra mile and always be communicating and closing the loops on communication. And so that's something that's really important for us in our teams. We don't want gossip going on, and we don't want unclear communication or unspoken communication, like where people are just feeling frustrations, but they're not speaking them. And so we want to close the loop on communication. That's number 4. Number 5, and this is something that's really, really important, is choose clarity when it comes to your communication. We want our team members to practice choosing clarity. And something that we say around our team all the time is clarity is kindness. Clarity is kindness. And so we want in our conversations with people and in our communication with people, we want to be clear, we want to be kind, and we want to be direct. And so that is a really great practice to have. And that is 360-degree leadership, meaning you want to be clear, kind, and direct when you're talking to a superior. You want to be clear, kind, and direct when you're talking to a peer. And you want to be clear, kind, and direct when you're talking to those people that you're leading. And so the clarity piece is really, really huge. And so that goes for us. We apply this in feedback. We apply this in instructions. We apply this when it comes to expectations. And this is maybe one of the biggest areas where I see teams break down, is that they're not clear, kind, and direct when it comes to their expectations. And so we kind of leave expectations open-ended. And especially when you're working with volunteers, and a lot of you all are volunteer, but when you're leading teams of volunteers, one of the best things you can do, and sometimes you're like, I don't want to be like so like clear and direct that I let them know like what they're doing wrong, or that I give them a coach up or some feedback on their like how they led that group. Or sometimes we don't want to put like the expectations in front of them to say like for us, we'll tell our leaders on the front end, our expectation is that you serve like with middle school for the next 3 years. And we want and the clarity on the front end helps us weed them out on who's actually really invested. Sometimes we feel tempted to go, I don't want to tell them that I want them to be around for 3 years. I'm just going to tell them 1 year and then hope that each year I can keep asking them, you know what I mean? And we just want to be clear, kind, and direct on the front end. Hey, we want you to serve for the next 3 years. And if you can't commit to that, that's okay. But that's where we're at. And then we'll also tell them, hey, our expectation on the front end, we want to be clear, kind, and direct. Our expectation is that you go to the events with the students. And so I know that's going to mean 2 weekends out of your year. But we want you to do that and give that to us. And so we We are clear, kind, and direct with our expectations. And then if you're clear, kind, and direct with your expectations on the front end, then the feedback process is so much easier. You know what I mean? Like after you've laid out the expectations on the front end, then you can say, hey, remember when you agreed to this? Hey, remember when you signed on for this? I was very clear with my expectations on the front end. And so then I can coach and feedback with more love and kindness, and they're on board with it. And so something that we want to do as a team when with the people that we lead is we want to be clear, kind, and direct. And so we want to choose clarity. Another thing that we want to practice as a team is this is the kind of language we use in the States. We call it see smoke, call fire. And when I say see smoke, call fire, it means if you see a problem in another person's area of ministry, you're willing to call it out. And so it's not living like siloed in ministry. So for example, for us, this just happened last night. We posted a graphic on our college social media, and there was a misspelling in the graphic. And somebody from a different department that wasn't college, they picked up the phone and they called me and they said, hey, I noticed you posted that graphic and there's an error in the spelling. You might want to check that. Now, like if it's like, if I'm an insecure leader, then I get frustrated. Oh, I can't believe they did that. You know what I mean? But if we're secure leaders and if this is part of our culture, then I have to be okay with when someone sees an area like that, like sees a fire in my area, I have to be okay going, oh, you're absolutely right. And so what I did is I responded, I took the graphic down, I messaged our social media person, and we made the fix. And but that's good team culture. Is, hey, you see a problem in another person's area and you don't say, oh, well, that's their problem, or, oh yeah, that, because the reality is, like, everything that we do in our church, we do. Does that make sense? Like everything that's done, it represents all of us. And so for us, a win anywhere is a win everywhere, but a problem anywhere is a problem everywhere. And so that's the mentality that we want to have. So we want the people that serve with us, when they see smoke, call fire. And I would rather someone say something and it be no big deal than to say nothing and then it end up being a really big deal, right? And so that's a practice that we want all of our volunteers, all of our door holders, all of our staff, all of our residents, we want them to carry that mentality of see smoke, call fire. Another thing, and this is huge for us, is our expectation in healthy teams practices that you show up prepared. And this is really, really big, especially in church world, where sometimes we think that like preparation is like the enemy to like spirit filled, and we're like, oh no, like I gotta be like just open for the Spirit. I just want, like, something that we're telling our people all the time is the Holy Spirit is as present in your preparation as he is in the moment. And so you can invite the Holy Spirit into your preparation, and he will be present with you, and he will speak to you, and he will lead you, and he will guide you. And when you show up prepared, and this is just big for all of us, like when you show up prepared, you are giving value to the moment, and you are giving value to the people that you're leading. When you show up prepared, you're communicating to the leader above you that you took that moment seriously and you're giving them honor, but you're also giving honor to the people that you're leading in that moment. When you show up prepared, you're saying, you person that I'm trying to create this event for, or this worship moment for, or this sermon for, or this, light show or sound cues, like I'm creating these moments. And so I'm going to show up prepared because you're worth it. And you're valuable. And so my preparation lends value to you. And so we expect our people to show up prepared, whether it's just prepared in like their mind and their heart, like prepared for serving on a host team, whether it's with our family group leaders or for you guys, your crew leaders, to show up prepared, having looked over the questions and prayed for the people that they're leading, whether it's our worship leaders. Something that we're really big on is, even with a 2-minute song setup, our expectation is that you've prepared it ahead of time, and that you've thought about what you're going to say, and you've thought about the scripture you're going to reference, and you don't just get up there and they're like, all right, guys, we're going to sing this morning about how great our God is. And then you just go into the, like that's lazy and it's not prepared, and you didn't show value to the platform that God's provided you. And so we're expecting everyone to show up prepared. Now, something that we try to do on our end in helping our people to be prepared and to get prepared, something that we do is we just do leader rallies before every gathering. And so even right now in the season of Zoom calls, 30 minutes before every single Instagram live or YouTube thing, 30 minutes before, we ask all of our leaders to jump into a Zoom rally. And in that Zoom rally, it's not like we're trying to, preach the sermon before the sermon. We're literally getting in the Zoom rally and saying, hey, how's your head and how's your heart? Are you prepared to lead? And if you weren't prepared to lead, we want to take the next few minutes to ask God, would you have my mind's full attention? Would you have my heart's full affection? God, prepare me for what I'm about to do, because we think that preparation is key, and it adds value, and it honors God, and it inspires people. And so we're gonna be prepared when we show up for anything. And so that's a big expectation for us. And we think that, across the board, when other people show up prepared, it helps you trust them as a teammate. And so, if Tarek is showing up unprepared regularly, you're like, oh, what's it going to be like this week? But if he shows up prepared every single week, you're like, this is going to be great. And it raises your level of expectation. And so we just want to be people that show up prepared. Another thing, and we kind of touched on this a little bit in the criticism part, but something that we want to be is we want to be heroes, not hecklers. And when we say heroes, not hecklers, this is more in reference to other ministry areas. And so we want to champion and celebrate what God's doing in other areas and not compete with them. It's very easy in church world to want to compare stats with each other. You know what I mean? Well, we had this many people show up, and we had this many volunteers, and and then it turns into a competition. But we don't want to be competitors. We want to be co-laborers. And so we want to celebrate what God is doing in other areas in our house. And so, that's something that we're always trying to teach our people is you're not competing with the other ministries in the house, and you're not competing with the ministry down the street. You're actually like championing them because that's what the kingdom looks like. And so for us, that's something that we practice. We practice it in our all team meetings, where a lot of times in our celebrate times, you're not allowed to celebrate your ministry area. Like something that we'll do is we'll pass it to where I have to celebrate something that I've seen in another ministry area. And it just keeps that mentality of championing and being a hero for other people. Another way that this plays out in being hero versus heckler, or a coworker versus a competitor, is that when the opportunities come to serve in other areas, we encourage our people, don't just serve your area, but find moments to lean in. And so for me and our team the other night, before all of this happened, when I say the other night, it was actually 3 months ago, we had like a men's night, and a bunch of my team stayed and stacked chairs. And that was a way to be a hero for a different area of ministry. It wasn't our ministry, it wasn't our event, but we leaned in. And so that's something that we expect for our team, and we want to practice as good team members. Now we're down to the last 2. So we've gone through 8, last 2. And this one's really important, especially if you have aspirations to one day be on staff, or if you want to grow in your leadership, or if you want to take on more responsibility. This one's big. Something that we teach our people all the time is to own the moment. And when I say own the moment, I mean that we are future builders, we are forward thinkers, but the road to next is always paved through now. And so what you do with right now is what gets you to what's next. And so something that we're always telling our residents and our college students and the people that are serving, but they want greater responsibility, is how are you owning the moment you've been given right now? How are you owning the season you've been given right now? And you guys know this, something that this is a principle that even Jesus taught. He said, the one who is faithful with little will then be trusted with more. And so something that we want, a mentality, a culture that we want amongst our people, is that while we are forward thinkers and future builders, we get there by owning the now, and we own the moment that we're in. And so if your role is rallying the host team, then you be the best host team rallier that there is. If your moment right now is that you are recruiting crew leaders, then you recruit you make sure that the people that you recruit are the best crew leaders you could possibly have. If you're stacking chairs, then you show up and be the best chair stacker that there has ever been, and you stack with excellence and with a humble heart and with an awesome attitude. And then those people that are owning whatever moment they've been given, they're the ones that are trusted with more, and they're the ones that are given more responsibility, and they're the ones that are considered for future staff positions. As a matter of fact, I literally just sent out yesterday a job offer to a current resident that will now be on staff. And the reason why he's on staff is because he was owning the moment that he was in. In his season as a resident, he committed to be the best resident he could possibly be. And then because he was faithful in that season and owned that moment, he's now being given another moment with greater responsibility. And so that's something that we want for everyone on our teams, is for them to own the moment that they're currently in. And then the last thing, and this is something that the longer you're in ministry and the more you're around and treated like staff, this will become more and more important to you. And so for me, 13 years in to ministry, this is one of the most challenging yet most important ones on this list of 10. This last one is huge. This is a core value that we say, don't lose the wonder. And when I say don't lose the wonder, I'm talking about there's this, I'll explain it like this. When I went 10 years ago, I got engaged. And when I went to buy the ring, I was so nervous when I held that ring. I was like, I was so nervous because this was the most money I'd ever spent. It was crazy. I was so nervous. But the guy behind the counter, he was handling it like it was nothing. And I was like, that's all my money. For me, I was nervous having it in my pocket because it was precious. But for the guy behind the counter who worked at the jewelry store, he handled diamonds all the time. And so he treated it as normal. And the danger we run as people in ministry is early on in ministry, every moment feels precious, doesn't it? It's like, man, this is such a precious moment, this moment where we got to baptize, or we presented the gospel, or that person gave their life to Jesus. But then the longer you're around it, you become more like the jeweler, right? Where because you've handled these precious moments so much, the precious becomes normal, and the spectacular becomes mundane, and the miraculous becomes mundane. And so the danger we run is treating significant moments as something that's not special. And something we want on our team is to not lose that wonder. We don't want to lose the wonder of what we're doing. We don't want to lose that sense that what we're doing is miraculous, that God is in this, that that lives are being changed and eternities are being shaped. And so something that we're always encouraging our team is to not lose the wonder. And the way that we do that around our house is one, we share Jesus stories regularly. And so we're in almost every leader rally, in almost every pre-gathering prayer, we're trying to share stories from around the house. And so if you're going to share stories, though, you got to be a story gatherer. And so we're constantly asking, hey, tell us what God is doing in your life. Hey, leaders, tell us a moment from your groups. What's going on in crews? What conversations are happening? And so we're constantly gathering stories so we can share stories. Another thing that we do in order to stir up wonder in us is that we have little moments, probably once a month, that are called My Why. And when I say my why, we're giving people around our house, volunteers, door holders, staff members, opportunities to share their why, like why they're in ministry, why they serve at our church, why they signed up however many years ago or months ago or weeks ago, why they chose to sign up. And those my why moments, it's funny, like their why may be different from your why, but when someone shares their why, it reminds you of yours. You know what I mean? And so we have these my why moments that help us to stir it up and remind us, oh, this is why I did this in the first place. And so Jesus stories and my why moments, these are powerful ways that that we help one another to not lose the wonder and to treat the moments that are miraculous as if they are miraculous and not let those things become mundane. And so those are 10 things for us that we think help us to keep really strong team culture. They're things, they're expectations that we have for our teams. They're reminders, they're things that we lean into, we reteach. And the cool thing about all of those things is that no matter what the season looks like, those things are always important and they're always applicable. And so we can go back to those over and over and over again. Sometimes in certain seasons, we lean on one more than the other, but those are 10 things that we're always looking for to practice ourselves and to expect others to practice. And if we'll do that as individuals, those 10 things, then we're going to have really good culture. We're going to have a really healthy team. We're going to have a really healthy volunteer base. And we're going to be able to, really do some incredible kingdom work together. And so those are the things that I wanted to kind of share with you all. Tarek, I don't know if you wanted to unpack any of that question about it. We can ask other questions. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to share with you guys today.
Yeah, man, thank you so much. I think like many quotes will come out of this.
Oh yeah.
Like we need to put them on the wall or something like that. But yeah, like a little other topic, but maybe the one thing I admire about you, like we had a ton of like FaceTime meetings.
Oh yeah.
And like I remember one FaceTime meeting, like we were talking about culture and leadership and structure and all that kind of stuff. And I know that you just hang up and you told me, hey Tarek, I'm going to eat lunch with students at the high school nearby.
Right.
And I'm like, you could plan all the events, do all the to-dos, like check your mails. You could focus on building teams and structure things, but you choose building relationship. And I just want to focus on that for a moment. Like, I know a lot of examples from your life and leadership, but I would just love to hear your thoughts on this point, like building relationships.
Yeah. Relationships that's ministry. Ministry is relationships. It's not programs, it's people. And so something that we're always telling our volunteers and our staff is it's people over program, always. And so you can have a really great program, but if you're not loving, for, caring, investing in people, then your program doesn't matter. And I think we're in a time where the program gets all the praise. You know what I mean? Like the service or whatever, the party that you threw or the gathering gets all the credit. But that's like the cool face. Real effective ministry is life on life, and it's relational. And so something that we're always telling our leaders is that, you can throw the best program in the world, but if there's nobody there to participate in it, then it doesn't matter. And so we're going to chase and pursue people. And then we'll be creative, and we want to create an incredible experience for the people when they get there. But relationships are where it's at. And so it's where we spend most of our time. It's where we spend most of our energy. And so we kind of have a phrase around Passion students that is whatever it takes. And that's the kind of small group leaders that we want. That's the kind of family group leaders that we want, are people that are willing to do whatever it takes to reach students. And so that includes, we challenge them to be showing up at schools, to show up at lunches. If they can't get onto a school, then they show up at a game, or they show up at a play, or they show up at a recital, or they're gonna show up outside of church, because the students expect you to be there when the church doors are open. What they don't expect is for you to show up when you didn't have to. And that carries a lot of weight. And so we're always challenging our leaders, hey, make sure outside of here that you're making deposits, whether it's commenting on their Instagram, or sending them a text message or showing up at something outside of there. Those are moments that build credibility. And so something that we're telling our leaders, so when we have group on Wednesday, and we tell our people all the time, hey, like what you sow Thursday through the next Wednesday, you'll reap on Wednesday, right? And so like you want a great group. Well, a great group isn't built on what you brought on Wednesday. A great group was built on what you did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then you reap it on Wednesday in the conversations that you have, because that's where the trust is built. That's where the credibility is built. That's where a student begins to believe that you're actually for them. And so we're always doing it. And then also, you know, Tarek, I mean, I'm always trying to model it for my team. And so I'm going to pick the closest high school, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to keep showing up. And something that we do for our leaders is I'll send them all the football games, and that's football for us, like American football. But yeah, I'll send the schedule of all the games, and I'll tell my leaders, hey, I'm going to go to this game, and this game. If you want to come, let's have our own section. And then I'll just send them the schedule, and everybody shows up, and there's a bunch of us at one of the games. And so when we're showing up on their turf, it encourages them to want to show up on our turf. And so that's just that's just DNA for us though. Like that's the whatever it takes mongrel mentality, right?
Yeah. Love it, man. Like schedule time outside of church to meet students. Yep. Awesome. Like one question that came in is like the number one piece of advice you would give your younger self. Like maybe starting in ministry, or like looking back, you're 13 years in ministry. Like what piece of advice you would give your younger self?
So somebody asked me this recently, and I've been chewing on it. But one of the things that I think I would tell my younger self is that cool is overrated. And when I say that, I mean, now I'm learning at 34 that I will choose effective over cool any day of the week. And so we can get so caught up in what's cool or what's trendy or what everyone else is doing or what we've seen Elevation Youth doing. And oh my gosh, wasn't that so cool? They went live on their Instagram 47 times. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't feasibly do that. And I just want to be effective with where I'm at. And so I'm going to lean in and be effective with the relationships that God's entrusted me rather than chasing the next trend. And so, and then also, I mean, like with that, what I'm learning is that a lot of times the next trend just plays out, and they're truly like essential and effective things, they remain. So like things like showing up at someone's ball game, like that is always effective no matter what season it's been in. That was effective 10 years ago, and it will be effective in 10 years. Showing up in someone's life in a personal way, that never goes out of style. What might go out of style is Instagram. You know what I mean? And there'll be something else that comes along, and then you're like, oh my gosh, now I got to figure out how to do TikTok dances and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, like, I mean, so the trendy stuff, like, is, while it's important, don't get so caught up on that. Cool is definitely overrated. Choose to spend most of your time in what's most effective, not chasing trends. I think that's what I would have told 20-year-old me. I got caught up chasing trends and trying to do what was cool. And what's most effective though, like if I just would lean in there, you'll grow ministry.
Awesome. Thank you. And maybe like the last question that came in is like, how do you greet new people, or like building, like implement them in your youth that they are becoming like family? So how do you like get this welcoming culture to thrive?
Yeah. Well, we put together a student leadership team, and on our student leadership team, one of their main roles is to host and welcome. Because kind of what we found is, like, especially for high schoolers, but middle schoolers as well. But what we found is that like a high school student is going to feel more welcome when a peer welcomes them into the group than if a mom welcomes them into the group, right? And so we want to have a lot of students on our host team, and we sign in new people, we welcome them in, and then what we'll do is we'll kind of assign some of these host team people to, like, hey, when you sign that person in, it's now your job to walk them in, introduce them to people. Like, they're your responsibility as you're introducing them to people. And then the other thing that helps is we do groups night of. And so, like, right after the program, we immediately go to groups so that a new person now leaves. And if nothing else, they know 5 more people, 6 more people, and there's a leader that knows their name and can follow up with them. And so it's not right or wrong, but for our model, the way that we like to do it is the more immediately you can get someone plugged into community, the more likely they are to stick. And so we found, we do some of these larger events, but if there's no community piece to the larger event, then you don't see a lot of like follow through or follow up. And so having groups immediately following our events helps us to connect someone to a relationship, and then the relationship causes people to stick. And so that's part of the welcoming culture, is getting them into a group and making sure somebody knows their name and follows up with them, within 48 hours. And it's usually through a text message or through an Instagram follow. And then they'll say, so nice meeting you, like the other night, hope to see you again. And that immediate 48-hour follow-up with somebody that they actually like met, and not just a random person that like has their information and is like, hey, I'm Johnny from Blaze and nice seeing you the other night. And then they're like, well, I don't know Johnny and I never talked to Johnny. Like if it were just a random person, then it's less personal and it's less effective. But the more personal you make it, the more effective your follow-up becomes. And so if it's someone that actually talked to them and they were like, hey, I'm so glad you were in my group. I'm hoping I see you again. And I hope that test that you're praying about this week goes well. I'm praying for you. More likely that person's going to come back than the person that was randomly followed up with by just a random volunteer. And so, yeah, that's some of how we create that welcoming culture, is just as personal as you can make it on their first time there, then the follow-up and things like that happen.
Yeah. And I think right, it's the responsibility of the whole youth leader team, right? Like, if everybody lives this, like, I want to greet people, I want to welcome them,
yeah,
show them around, and I'm shooting them a text. And if everybody in our youth leader teams is living on that, like, man, we have a good chance of implementing new students into family, or
totally
better into heaven.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And something that we say all the time is new people are a priority. And so like they have to be treated like a priority, because like, your regular attenders are important, but they're going to come back whether or not you stop everything and say hey to them. You know what I mean? Like, they're invested, which is amazing. And so if you have a culture though where it's like, oh, that's a new person, I've never seen that person before, or a person alone. For us, we say new people are a priority. A person by themselves is an emergency. Like, that's like a stop everything, go over, like, greet that person, because they're all by themselves. And that takes a lot of guts. Whether they're showing up because they're interested in something, or maybe their mom or their dad made them show up and now they're awkwardly standing there by themselves. Like, that person needs to be treated like, yo, this is an emergency. I need to drop what I'm doing and go over there and strike up a conversation, because they've taken that first step to show up in my world. And I want to make sure that they don't regret it,
Yeah. Man, Reed, we appreciate it so much. Thank you so much that we could lean into your leadership and to your like ministry advices. So thank you so much. And yeah, we are praying for you. And yeah, I think we should do this again.
Oh, absolutely. I love it.
Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören beim Blaze Youth Leadership Podcast. Vergiss niemals, was wir für uns selbst tun, stirbt in uns. Und was wir für andere tun, lebt